everybody. I have going to do a little bit different coming from a pre-recorded video because I am at a crop this weekend at my local scrapbook store. So I'm going to do a little bit different video. We're going to make birthday cards, and I'm going to start my first part of the video using a bunch of Chroma Mist. These are basic colors. I'm not going to link everything down below. These colors are all in stock, but I'll try to kind of say what colors they are, but use whatever colors you want. But these are the basic colors. And I also just grabbed a basic supply of aqua pigments as well, you know, rainbow colors. We're just going to make a bunch of backgrounds. I'm going to kind of go through that a little bit with my, I'm going to get my glass mat out here so you can see them on the color. So that way you kind of see a process that I have. We're going to make a bunch of backgrounds. I'm going to let them dry and I'll talk you through them. And then once I let them dry, I'll come back, finish videoing them and show you how I'm going to use those backgrounds. But I wanted to get started by explaining what I was going to do tonight. So give me just a couple of minutes to get set up and I will be right back. Okay, I have a hardboard off to the side. I have a couple of spray trays off to the side. I've got some aqua pigment paper here and a water mister, and we're just going to go to town making some backgrounds and different backgrounds, both spraying and ink smushing. And then I am going to let them dry, and like I said, we'll come back and maybe put some paste on some or some stamping and, you know, doctor them up a little bit, and then we will go ahead and make some cards as well. So I'm just going to start this a little bit. If this video gets a little bit long, I will go ahead and speed some of it up. But I'm just starting here with some aqua pigments, just in some red and yellow. I like to start with colors that like to coordinate with each other. Now there's a couple different ways you can do ink smushing. I like to be the organic way. I don't necessarily like to have control necessarily. I think it's fun to just go in and let the colors do their thing. So we're just gonna add a bunch of colors and squish them around. And you know, with these colors, they're gonna like each other and make that orange and yellow color. I am gonna have a little cloth here to the side where I can clean up. I am using my Brutus Monroe glass mat today because this is a little bit different. You can see the colors on here. Now, as I have some things where I need to heat up to get different textures and build up, and I use like my heat tool and things, I may speed up the video from time to time. I will do that and put a little music on as I do that, or just, you know, depends on each one. Okay, I may do some cutting out. I'll start with the heat embossing and cut those out and then come back to once it's dry. I'm just doing some, you'll see me flip it over, go up from the top, from the back, but we just want to add some layers. So I'm also going to use a little bit of orange here, a little bit darker orange in that case. I think I'm going to add a bunch more yellow because I want to lighten it up a little bit. And then for some shimmer, I'm going to go ahead and add some white and some pearl. I got to grab my pearl here. You can do it, you can add a little bit, though mine is getting a little bit older there. Move my colors off to the side. All you have to do, like I said, add a little water, as much as you want, and just ink smush. I mean, it's a fun way that you can create lots of different things, and you add texture, you add layers, and like I said, I just kind of clean up in between each one. You can do multiples from different, so you don't have to clean up each time. But each time you add layers, you add depth to your background. Okay, so I have layer number 2 done. I'm going to add a little bit more layer. This time I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm not going to add as much water, but I'm going to add some pearl. And I'm going to add a little bit more of that red color to it. And then just a spritz of water this time. I'm not going to dilute it as much, so that way it will move, but it won't move as much. So I get some of those. You can squish around like that. It kind of depends. You can also spray your cloth or your paper, and like I said, depending on how much water you add, how much you can get those variegated lines. I don't always like that because when it dries, it takes away from my pattern. So we're gonna add a little bit more here. I'm gonna add a little more pearl, a little more red, and a little bit more yellow. These are just drops, and I am gonna add a little bit more water this time. And then when I go in there, see, now you don't see those harsh lines that I had before. And then I'm just gonna go through and try to get everything kind of covered as much as I can. You know, I have a little bit of waviness lines in there. I mean, it's very yellow or orangey, and that's okay because we can always add other colors. Like I said, I'm just having some fun playing with it. You can see a little bit of yellow. You can see a little bit of red. Okay, I am gonna set this one aside to dry. You can kind of see that little bit of pearl in there, and just see how it works. Sometimes I like to let them just dry naturally. So I'm going to set that one off to the side. And now we're going to do a different version of ink smushing, which is another way people like to smush, ink smush. And all I'm going to do is go into my trash, actually. And I'm going to take a piece of, this is just a piece of packaging from a stencil. I'm going to go ahead and cut it so that I don't have such a wide, this is a double layered thick. Ooh, I almost knocked my entire tool thing off the edge of my desk. Okay, so, and then I'm just gonna tear it down the side, just like that, see? So you can use any kind of plastic pouch, stamp packaging, acetate. And then what we're gonna do instead with this one is I'm gonna spray my paper. There's lots of ways to do it. This is playtime. I'm also gonna spray the back just a little bit. That helps that paper, see it sucked it right back down. And then I'm going to take, and we're gonna do some purples this time. I've got violet here. Shake that up just a little bit because it's been sitting. I'm trying to use some of my older aqua pigments up so that I can use them. And that's what they're there for, right? So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take it and we're gonna squish, and see, you have a little bit more control of where you want that color to go. And I can move it around a little bit more. I can swish it around like this and get those colors where I want them. And then I can just take this and wipe this off and add another color. I'm gonna add some green. I hope that doesn't turn. Ooh, this is an old, you can tell I have not mixed my color up because it has settled the color and so just gotta mix it up really well. Better. And actually you can do it this way too. Put it on here. I'll do it that way. Let me suck this up here. A little water, just to do it the same way. And I'm just gonna grab this color and we can just go in here and add the color where we want it. By grabbing it, and it's because green has a blue base to it, it's mixing with the purple and making darker colors. And I can just, and then once again, I can zhuzh this around. You can kind of crinkle it if you want and pull it in. And that will give you some texture if you want that texture. And we're just gonna add some more color, just like that. And I'm not gonna reuse this. I'm just gonna throw this away. Because for this one, to add a little bit of shimmer, I'm just gonna spritz it with some ornament gold. Just a little bit. You can see I got a pup hair in there too. So I'm gonna get my little pick tool out of there and grab that little pup hair off of here. There we go. I think there was a second one up here. My little puppy like sheds. There we go. All right. And then I can kind of leave this as it is. I'm going to go ahead and wipe my mat up and dry this one. We're going to grab my little splatter box here. And I have a spray tray in the bottom. It's just a plain old spray tray. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of aqua pigment paper in here. And here's where we're going to add some chroma mists. Now I have a bunch of chroma mists. I have some of the original chroma mists, which like I have the holly berry, and I think I have yellow or candy apple red, bumblebee yellow. I have the holly berry, the cobalt blue, lilac purple, and then I have grabbed the brass and the copper shimmer, and you can see at the bottom there's that shimmer stuff, so we need to make sure those are mixed really well. So I'm going to shake them like that. That'll be off camera. You won't see that till it's all good. And I just want to mix them. You can start seeing that it's getting mixed. I kind of mix them side to side. I try not to shake them. I either go from side to side. Sorry if that gets you, or go like this. Because then that doesn't get a bunch of that shimmer in the tube of my spray bottle. I am going to spritz it with a little bit of water. Like again, I'm going to sit it from the outside, and then I'm just going to play. So I'm going to start with this bumblebee yellow, and I'm just going to spritz it kind of all over because it's a lighter color. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab the leaf green. And sometimes I spritz off to the side first just to see where my colors are. Then I might grab a little bit of my spray, my water again. And then, like I said, playtime. This is that copper shimmer. Oh, he is not been used for a while. So I'm going to spritz that off to the side. This one isn't a very like overpowering color, but it adds a lot of shimmer. It's very pretty. A little more water, a little more green there. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more of this bumblebee yellow, just to kind of mix it all in. A little more copper shimmer. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick it up, kind of let the colors move. So you can see all that color on there. And let them kind of play together. And then I'm going to go ahead and just put this right off on my sideboard to dry. And I'm going to let that dry naturally. And then I can go in and just wipe this up with a cloth or a paper towel. I'm just going to use this cloth, and then I'll rinse this cloth at the end. Baby wipe you can use. And I'm going to grab my next color. Okay. This time I'm not going to spray any water. We're just going to spritz it with some of the aqua pigments. So I've got holly berry here. It's a very light color, and I'm going to show you the difference. There is the holly berry. Here is the cran apple red. See the difference? And then, of course, every once in a while, you get kind of a spray like that. Sometimes it's because your nozzle is like it's got like, so the spritz doesn't quite work quite as well. That happens. It's okay with sprays. That's part of the fun of sprays. I'm adding a little water now to kind of make it run. Gonna add a little bit more of that holly berry. And then this is the one I'm gonna grab that brass. Spritz it off to the side first just to get it started. It's a very, you can see it looks kind of like a dirty color, to be honest with you, a little bit. And then I think I'm gonna add a little white. My white tends to be a little more globby, and I think sometimes that's because I don't mix it up as well. So I'm just gonna spritz it on a little bit, and then I'm gonna go back with, like I said, the holly berry, a little bit of that candy apple red, and a little water. And then I'm gonna just kind of, once again, grab it and let it kind of do its thing. And by tipping it here and there, it will get its colors mixing. And then I'm gonna go ahead and let this one sit off to the side to dry as well. Okay, let's get this all wiped up. You can take a piece, I should say. You can take a piece if you want of your aqua pigment paper and do an ink smushing technique with that as well, with what's in there. You know, I mean, where it's more red, of course, it's going to be, you know, and you can start a layer of a background. There's a lot of red in there, so let's just tip that out a little bit. And I could start this with a background. You can see where I got a little bit of that green in there, and you could go ahead and just spritz it. That copper shimmer is so, so pretty. We'll grab some of that bumblebee yellow again. And maybe we'll throw in a little bit of the tangerine orange. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a good spritz. And I'm going to let this one do its job as well. Okay? And I think that might be all I'm going to do. I know I had a couple other colors. Let's see. I have a couple more colors here. Let's wipe this up real good. My cloth is very dirty. I have a blue here I did not use, so let's use that. And I have a leaf green. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by spritzing it with the ornament gold this time. My favorite. And that's just going to give it a little bit of shimmer, a little water. And then I'm going to use the cobalt blue. This is a very bright color. Very pretty. And I'll grab some of that leaf green. This is another bright color. Like I said, I'm going to spritz it off to the side. And then just to add a little bit more shimmer, let's add some of that copper shimmer in there. And then I'm going to try to get this to really kind of, I do want to add a little bit more color on the sides. A little water, because I don't want a lot of white spaces. So I'm going to add a little bit more water and then a little bit more, that's green. There we go. And I think one more copper shimmer over the top, just to kind of let it mix. And then we've got a lot of, look at how beautiful that color is. And of course there's edges. I can just kind of, like I said, tip it a little bit, but we can also camouflage those edges. So I'm going to go ahead and set this one aside to dry. And that's all we're going to do for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece of aqua pigment paper here and spritz it with a bunch of water and soak up some of this lovely paint that's in here. Just to make a fun extra background before I clean it up. I'm going to take my little spray container here to the bathroom. So look at how fun this is. And I'm going to try to get all, there's not a lot of white spaces. My fingers where it's touching is going to have some white spaces. So I'm going to try to squish it in there and pull it out without touching too much of the side, and just let it sit in a tray to dry. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let all of those dry, and then we will come back for a second part. Okay, everybody, now all my panels are dry. I was just kind of looking at them. Let me get my glass mat moved up a little bit here. Here are what our backgrounds look like. We're going to go over these kind of quickly. I'm going to create a couple of cards using, I'm going to do another step or two with a couple of these cards. I have to put some of them aside to dry. I am going to create probably a couple cards off camera and then as well, but we'll get some going. So we're just going to go ahead. I went through and chose some stencils Most of these were in stock, or they were all in stock. There was only a few left of some of them when I looked, when I was filming this. But I will link what I can below. If there's something specific you're looking for and you don't see it, just let me know. And then we're gonna grab some pastes and do some pasting with some of these and others. So I'm just gonna go through here and choose a few different ones for fun, for color. And we've got more shimmery ones where I don't know if we're going to do maybe some ink blending on them, and some that aren't quite so shimmery and put some of that glitter glaze on them. Thinking maybe we'll grab, let's start with these two. And I'm thinking this one's got kind of a gradated down here at the bottom, that we'll go ahead and use this one on here, kind of like confetti, and then the circle dot one here. So let me grab some pastes. Okay, I grabbed some silver chroma glaze and some fallen snow glitter glaze. So let's start with those. Neither one of these am I going to worry about putting, using any kind of pixie spray with. I'm just going to go ahead and use my magnet to kind of hold this in place on my glass mat, because I'm not going for perfection here. And then I'll have some baby wipes to the side, and I have some, just a bin with some lukewarm water to wipe my stencils off with. Now, one thing I will say, I've done this before. If you haven't seen me do this before, I prefer to go one direction with my pastes. You can use like a stencil pal and get a smoother color. Now, with some of these inks and things like that, because this is a clear gel, you can pick up some ink on them. So you need to be kind of careful and keep an eye on that. So if you have extra, you know, check your paste before you put it back in the jar and make sure that it's not gonna have a lot of extra. I'm just gonna use this flat-edged palette knife here just to bring it down, clean it up. Like I said, I'm trying to go just one direction. I'm not gonna worry about it being super perfect, because we'll probably cut some of these down. We'll color some of these up. See, here's where I got a little bit of that red came through. So I'm not gonna put that back in my jar. I'm gonna go ahead and just try to kind of put it in here, and then I'll end up just wiping that off. Okay, I cleaned everything up from the first. I wanted to say our jars come with this little plastic piece. This is an older jar. The newer jars are in a bigger container like this. I'm not sure if I have one. Let me see if I have one. Yeah, here, like this. So keep that piece of plastic that's on there, because that helps to prevent them from drying out. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover that up, and I'm gonna go ahead and use some of my chroma glaze. I'm using some of my older glazes first, just to use them up. This one, I'm not sure I'm gonna get the whole thing done. I think we're just gonna do like a smattering of it on here. So I'm just gonna cover up my stencil a little bit, grab my chroma glaze. Like I said, peel that piece off like that, and just grab some of this paste. Ooh, you can see I'm starting to need to use this up. So I may end up creating extra cards with this one today so I can use this paste up, because I've had it a while and it's starting to dry. You know, they're not going to last forever. And I'm just going to go ahead and put some here and there and just make it not perfect. Well, I'm not going to worry about it being perfect, but I am going to just keep using what I have, because I have plenty. I changed my mind on that since I'm trying to use this paste up. I'm just going to use up a lot, maybe cover the whole thing, which means I need to move my magnet so I can get in here and put it all down. Just not going to worry about it being perfect. Got a little bit there. Let's see, how does that look? Pretty close. It looks like I got it fairly close, so we're going to add just a little bit extra paste here. Like I said, I tend to cut my panels down, so I'm not going to worry about the edges as much, just making sure that center section Then I'm going to go ahead and set these aside to dry. And we will create a couple of cards using some ink blending and some stencils, some more backgrounds. We're just, part of the focus of this is just adding layer upon layer upon layer. So, you know, grab a stencil. It can be a geometric. It can be, I'm just using some kind of plain, for the paste, I'm using something to plain shapes and geometrics versus some crazy pattern, because I don't want them to overpower. And then I tap that down a little bit. I don't want them to overpower my focal point, which is going to be a stamped image or a sentiment or something. So wipe off my magnet here, peel and reveal. You ready for the reveal? So this is what it looks like wet, and then I'm going to let it dry, and I will come back and show you what that looks like in a few. Okay, for my next background, I have the Make-A-Wish stencil. I'm going to I think we're going to do it this way, because I do kind of want to because it's a directional stencil, and I'm just going to grab some ink colors. I'm going to use some Simon Hurley ink colors. I'm going to grab a couple of I'm just looking to see what colors I already had out. I've got a couple of ink holders here. I'm going to go ahead and grab a green. I'm going to go with 4, as in how Christopher says it, 4. And then I am going to grab my shooting star and my guppy ink for the flames. I'll show you kind of how we're going to do that. And I'm just going to grab a blending brush and go to town. I have 4 off to the side here. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab that. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to try to add the 4 just to my candles. Not going to worry about it too much, but I'm going to try to just do the candles as much as I can, just to give it, I'm giving a very subtle background, as in I'm not trying to go super dark. Now you could mask off the candle, the flames. I'm not going to worry about it too much. You could use a smaller blending brush, like a smaller one like this, so you can just get in there and do the candle part. Like I said, I'm creating some backgrounds. I can cut them off. I can cut them down. I can cut I can cut a shape out of them, like a circle, and just create kind of a pattern paper. I'll move this one over here. Just to make sure we get the other candles over here. All right. And then I'm just going to kind of peek and see. Yep, I can see those. And then I'm going to go ahead and I am going to use a small brush again. And I'm going to start with my yellow, or my shooting star. The Stellar inks, I love. They're very juicy. I'm just going to add a little bit of flamage. You know, my background had some green on it, so the candles aren't going to be perfect, or the candle flames aren't going to be perfect. This is one you could do Fallen Snow Glitter Glaze or Unicorn Horn Star Glaze if you wanted to give it just the shine for the background, but I thought it'd be fun to do the color. And then we're just going to grab a little bit of guppy and just kind of add it right at the base of each of those flames. You can see I'm not going super fast. I mean, I'm going super fast. I'm just kind of dabbing some in just to give us that little bit of glow. You know, on this one, I overplayed it just a little bit. It got onto my candle, but my candle's going to be glowing. You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you have a small shader brush, you could use that as well. And then I'm going to go through one more time and just kind of blend over that a little bit with my whatever's left on my ink pad or my ink blending tool. Same thing with my green here and there. Just to kind of help blend those down. Like I said, just creating the idea of a background. And I will bring this up closer so you can see. And we had that shimmer in there, so it gives it that whole shimmer background. And now we can just cover this up. And then I think for one last one here, I'm gonna go ahead and grab, this is the hexagon one. I'm gonna grab, and we're going to do completely different way. We're gonna go through, if I can find my brush. Not sure where it is. So I'm gonna grab this, and I'm gonna grab my white, my alabaster, excuse my puppy barking. Somebody must be outside. And I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna do a small little area here and there. It will die back a little bit. We're just adding a little texture here and there, a little interest. Not too much. Then maybe we'll do this one right here. Okay. It might be me banging on my desk that's making my puppy bark. All right, let's see how it looks. Oh, just a tiny little thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and let these rest, and then I will come back and we'll put our cards together. Okay, I did a little prepping and coloring and image cutting and die cutting and stuff outside. I did cut this panel down, so we're gonna start putting some more cards together. This is, I believe, lima bean. It is, let me see, Meadow cardstock. I did try to link everything, or most everything, down below. I did not link everything down below. I did not link all of the sprays and aqua pigments because, you know, that would have just gone on and on. So I just wanted to, I linked the main items like the stamps and stencils and the paper, so that way you would be able to get those if you want. If there is something specific you're looking for, if you leave me a comment, I am more than happy to post that in the comments, a link if you want. Those links are affiliate links, which just means if you place an order using one of my links, I get a small commission off of that, which helps me bring you content. So I just stamped this Sweet Birthday Bears. This is the stamp set. It was from CYOE last year, and I stamped it out. There is an SVG for it, but I just stamped it on some Perfect Blend paper and cut it out with a die from my stash. Same thing with the sentiment. This is just an old Spellbinders die. And then go ahead and put that down on here. Fairly fast, simple cards, but that, you know, my thoughts are when you have bling and sparkle and things like that, or lots of things going on, you don't need to do lots of complicated ideas. So we had a bunch of layers on our background, so I thought that was good. I may come back and add some sentiments afterwards, but I'm just gonna get all my card panels done first. We are gonna make a couple live, like I am going to cut them out. Hopefully this video doesn't go too long. I'm gonna try to edit out some of the things so it doesn't go too much over. So there is our first card. For our second card, I used the same stamp set and just, once again, on the Perfect Blend paper. I did cut this piece down. I did not cut, I think I cut this piece down. No, I did not. So we are going to cut it down. Let me grab some paper. I'm gonna grab the heirloom tomato paper. is one of my favorite cardstocks. I'm gonna see, I think I have a scrap here. Actually, looks like I have this piece here, and this piece here is a smaller piece. So let's just cut down. I'm gonna cut down a little bit more off the top here, just because I'm gonna keep that nice little white area down here at the bottom. And then we'll trim a little bit off this side, and I'm gonna trim a little bit off this side. I wanna keep a little bit more of that lighter color so we can mat that right on our cardstock. And of course, I'm just gonna use the piece because it's gonna go on a card base. So I can use a piece that I cut it out. And then this piece is not quite, what is it, 3/8, I think is what that is. So let's go to, I'm gonna go to 2.5 and just see what that looks like. We might trim it down a little bit more because I don't know if I want to have that red at the top and bottom so much. Yeah, I think I want to trim it down so that it's just on the edges. We'll try it. Let's see. At 4, I'm going to do it at 4 1/8 just to start. So it's just a tiny bit of red hanging out, and I'll see what that looks like. Yeah, I'm going to trim it down so that it's exactly that it matches. So to 4 inches. So that way it goes end to end with the white and just a little bit of border. So I think I need to trim a hair down. It must be just a little bit bigger then. There we go. Okay, get this put off to the side. See, I'm just going to do it just like that. And then I have all this little fun bling. I mean, you could put this in the front of your card. You could do it, if you were going to do something, you could do it even the way that, but I'm going to do a landscape. So I'm going to add these cards. I think I said this before, but I really wanted to focus on kind of making some backgrounds and then going through your stash and grabbing some birthday stamps and sentiments and adding them to your cards, because sometimes we need to have that playtime where we make those backgrounds, knowing that you're going to make a bunch of birthday cards, or you can just make a bunch of backgrounds and then come back and make a bunch of cards, whether you need to make a bunch of sympathy cards, or a bunch of thank you cards, or a thinking of you cards, or cards even without any sentiment on them. So that way you have them ready to go. You can add a sentiment if you need a quick card. And that is card number 2. I just want to make sure that's straight on there. Looks like it might be just a hair short on that one side, but it'll be fine. So we've got card number 2. And then for the next card, I did a bunch of stain. So I ended up adding some embossing ink, or some alabaster embossing ink to my alabaster pigment and heat setting that. And then I added some from that butter, I put it away, stamp set. I did link it below, but I did put that away already. It's in a box way on the other side of the room. But this is where the script came from, and this floral, which I stamped on some vellum and I heat embossed it. I used some of the Stellar Black Widow ink and did icicle embossing powder over the front. So we're just going to stick that down, and I am going to go ahead and just use some adhesive, and I'm going to put, hopefully my glue here works. So I have already put my other glue away in preparation for my crafty time. I am going to use a little bit of liquid glue. I'm just going to put it a little bit behind like the florals here and the centers, because you're really not going to see that much because of the pattern. And I have not stamped a sentiment for this yet. So I may leave this and get a birthday sentiment for when I know who I'm going to give this recipient to. But I'm going to go ahead and put this down on some licorice cardstock. I think. Yes, I did cut that down. I hurry a little bit. Sometimes my papers start falling over. So I'm going to And the only reason I'm hurrying a little bit is so our video doesn't get too long, as we still have other backgrounds I wanted to play with. Okay. Our last few, I have the sentiments and the images all prepped because I'll show you how I did a little cheat on that. Okay, now I feel like I cut it down a little bit higher and lower than on the sides. So what I can do is, if you see that, I'm just going to trim it a little bit. I'm going to just trim it a little bit. My card doesn't have to be 5 1/4. You know, you can trim your card base down a little bit too. But I also can trim it down so I have the tiniest white border around the outside edges of my card. So I'm looking like I didn't get it perfect all the way around. So if I was to grab a card base and stick this down, you know, I could trim it so I have just the lightest white border. So I'm just getting there. I need to trim a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Like a hair. Oops. And of course, my trimmer got off a little bit. Every once in a while, I dropped my trimmer once, so my trimmer gets loose a little bit here and there, and I have to tighten the nut on the back. So yeah, so then that white will pop even more. And then I can add a sentiment, a happy birthday sentiment, which I probably will heat emboss white on black and stick it across. But I am going to grab one and do that when I am ready to send that card. Okay, for my last few cards, this is where I said we kind of cheated here a little bit. Get my glue press along. I grabbed a bunch of products from last year. This is from the birthday box from last year. There was the happy birthday paper pad. I linked everything that was still available. And inside was this amazing piece of paper and it matches the Happy Birthday Pals stamp set. But these images are already cut in, and then there was a die set. And there's also the Simple Sentiments die. The Simple Sentiments die will cut all of these out at once. And then the images, so these dies cut these images out. So I already cut those out. And I already had sentiments cut out. So we're just gonna grab some of that pattern paper and make some of these cards. So I grabbed a few just here, and we'll see how many we can get done. I'm gonna start with this birthday card here, and we're just, I mean, these are gonna be some fairly simple cards. You could step them up a little bit by, I'm gonna do just a 2-inch border, 2.5, I'm gonna do 2.5 inches. You could do a simple sentiment. You could step them up by matting everything, cutting them down. But I think we're just going to do some very, very basic fun sentiments. Now, this is that sterling. Isn't that pretty? What I'm going to do though, and look, I mean, you could even just flip it upside down and look the colors, which we might do. But I want to grab some of that blue and tie that in. And, you know, you can add vellum circles behind each one. I may do that yet, and I may do that right off camera. And then come back at the very end and just show you the cards just so that they stick up. But I'm also thinking that, you know, I might cut out some vellum circles and then put them in here and then just show you. And then I've got the sentiment, hope your birthday is a hoot. Just to pop this up a little bit. So I do want to use some adhesive. I'm going to stick my sentiment down. We're going to put all these together, and then I will cut out all because I think I'm going to do that for all of them and get the vellum circles, and then I'll come back, put them all, and show you at the end here because that's basic, but that way you have it. So that way that ties that up just a little bit. I hope your birthday is a suit. You could totally put it on other colors. So there's one. So for my next one, I have this great ant piece, and I turned it sideways because I liked the sentiment, which was, your birthday is very important to me. Sorry, I forgot. And instead of he's carrying that balloon. I'm just gonna do a thin strip of balloon. So let's do about an inch. So this is a 6 inch. I'm just gonna cut it down at 5 inches. And that will give me a nice little strip of balloon. Now, obviously, I'm going to, one thing you can do with these is run these through your die cut machine. Here, let me show you. If you have an embossing mat, a lot of times that will help, but you can just, I don't have anything in here. It's just, and actually, I'll put it through where it's clean. Like I don't have any marks, because sometimes a mark like this, and I'm just gonna quick run this through my die cut machine. I'm using an automated one. You can also run it through with an embossing mat, and it will happen to flatten that out. So, I mean, I could still do it. You could also dry it and put it through your laminator. Once it's 100% dry, through some copy paper, and that will help get those edges if there's some warping. So yeah, I think I'm actually gonna cut 1 more inch off because I wanna get some of that orange, those orange balloons in there. So let's go down 1 more inch. See, now I've got the orange balloons in there too, which will help tie those colors together, and that nice bright yellow balloon. This is a paper pad that I bought several of last year. Like I said, there were some in stock. When I looked today, which it's Thursday, tomorrow's the day my video will go up. And so if you want some, you can make so many cards with this set. And then we'll get our little vellum circle to put our little ant on. And then I think for my sentiment, I'm gonna put it down right, I don't know, let me think. Yeah, I'm gonna put it down here, and I'm gonna put it off to the right here. And then what we'll do is we'll put our little vellum circle and put our little ant on top like there. So let's get that down. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you next week for sure. Well, I will have some of the April release to play with, and I hope you guys let me know which one's your favorite card. So let's put those like that. Of course, these are the ones that are done. All right, we have 2 backgrounds left that I have done. I've got Wishing You a Happy Birthday, Fishing You, and this just reminded me of the sea, so I thought we had to use him. I'm gonna probably trim it down. And then this fun background, which was our 1 ink smushing with our, I'm gonna run that through my die cut machine, with our, what do you call it? That was our controlled ink smushing, where I used the plastic. I thought this ant was really, or this worm was really cute because he was about the same color purple. Yeah, see, look at, I mean, and that was just one through. A lot of times I will also use foam tape when I am doing these types of cards so that I can, and it will also help them, you know, adhere a little bit more. So let's see what I got here. I think I'm going to use this one on this card. And then I think for some fun color, we're just going to use this orange and make that pop, maybe. Let's just use this. Let's use 2 pieces. We'll use a little bit of this and a little bit of this. We'll just kind of put it around like this, and then I'll put my little vellum piece on. And then we'll have our sentiment as well. Okay, so let's get that glued down. Like I said, you could totally mat some of these pieces of cardstock to give them some more, like stand out, you know, and use some glitter stock. It would be all, that would all work. But as you can see, I don't try to think a ton about my cards. I don't mean it that way. I meant it as in, I don't mean to, I try not to put lots of time as in it takes forever. I make a decision and stick with it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't work out, all I have to do is throw it in the trash or use it for a background. So I've got our little fishy here. We'll put him down. And wishing you fishing you. Yeah, we're gonna put that up at the top. I know we overcomplicate it sometimes, so I do want to encourage you just to play. Like I said, a little bit of bling. I'm gonna put that off to the side again like that. A little bit of, you could come back with some sequins or some, let's do a little bit wider one. Let's do a 2-inch. I'm gonna do 2 inches. Maybe we'll cut this one down to 4. And we'll cut this down to 4. You could totally come back and add some more things. Add some glitter stock. Go grab some glitter stock balloons. And we'll trim off the top of the bottom too a little bit, just because it looks a little bit better when you do that. I know I'm probably off camera a little bit with my, but I put this guy on here like this. Yep, I love it. I mean, you could do it any way you want. If I was going to do it this way, I would probably mat that side so that it stuck out and stood out a little bit more, since they're a busy background. But look at how this color just really does tie in very, very, very well with our little worm. And then last but not least, I had a little sentiment that went with him. Where did he go? Where did our worm go? Oh, I was going to use that one instead. That's why I didn't pull him out. I was not going to use the worm, I think. Well, what I did, let's check and see if we can find the sentiment. Yeah, I wasn't going to use the worm. I was going to use the ghosty. But I stick my extra sentiments in my packaging like this. So here's my other little guys. I'm just going to stick them all inside, and I am ready to go with a few items. So, you know, you can always stamp some extra images, stamp some extra sentiments out, and then when you go to use them, I think what we're going to do is we're going to just stick this guy down right about, let's do it right about, yeah, let's do that. So we're going to stick this down like this, and then I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive to this guy. All right. I'll stick that down like that. And I do have a little bit of overhang from my adhesive. Once everything's good and adhered, I can come back with my finger. That's one thing I like about tape runner, or I can use an eraser, glue eraser. There's our little worm birthday wishes. And then we need some embellishments. I'm gonna quick go cut out those couple of vellum circles, and I will come back to put those together. Okay, so all I did was take some double-sided adhesive. Any double-sided adhesive would work, and I put it on my vellum. I will say a couple of my vellums were scrap pieces, which I had sprayed with some ornament gold chroma mist, and then I just used my die cut machine to cut them out. This is just plain vellum with that. I like using double-sided adhesive with vellum because the whole thing sticks. I'm gonna go ahead and hopefully not struggle too much getting the back airs off. There we go. We're just gonna stick it down right there, right here. It's already stuck. We got our little fish, which that helps it stand out a little bit more versus right here, plus that white edge. And then we've got our, I hope your birthday is a hoot. And actually, I'm gonna lift this up a little bit, I think. We're gonna stick that guy down right underneath. So we've got our little, and then for last but not least, we've got your birthday is important to me. Sorry, I forgot. And get that on off. Now this is one where you could totally add some more balloon die cuts if you had that up in the top. And I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna put it right. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna kind of tuck it under. I may need to add a little bit of adhesive. I'm just gonna tuck it under a little bit. Tuck it under, so it just hangs out a little bit. That just helps tie it all together. And then I've got my little ant guy that can go right there. Okay, let's get our guys stuck down. Sometimes when you're using sprays and or you have glazes and glitter glazes, I use both the wet and dry adhesive just to help it stay put. Stick my little, let's do that with these guys here. I'll put our adhesive down on it. And then I can add some liquid adhesive to both as well, since I'm making more than one card. And then we're just gonna stick our little ant guy down. And we're gonna stick him on here so he's kind of centered on there. And then our fish guy, he's just got a little bit. He's got his little, and then like I said, you can add some envelopes. Ooh, my magnet's stuck together. Watch your fingers for that. I use those strong glass mat ones and they are super strong. So there we go, you guys. Let me pull off these magnets here and we'll go through, show all of our cards quick again. I hope this was a fun, different kind of live for me. I hope you learned something. I don't know if I can get them all on camera 100%. Like I said, this one, we need to put a sentiment on, but I'm just gonna find a sentiment that works. I don't know if I'm gonna heat emboss one, and actually it will be on white, so you'll see that little bit of white. And then we've got this one, and then this one also will need a color. I don't know, I might do the purple, I might do the blue, but let me show you what it looks like just with a little bit of the white around the edges, which would work as well, because then that kind of mimics the white there. But I do need to put them on a panel as well. I'm gonna put some foam tape on the back of this one and pop him up. And I'll show you, grab some foam tape and do that here right now. I like to use these big, thick pieces. I know we're out of stock of this. Not sure when we're going to get some more in, so I apologize for that. But I'll just stick that down and grab a piece here that I have cut in half. And then I can get that on a card base. And that will help it stay stuck down as well. It will flatten out as I stick it down. So I'm gonna stick that guy here. So you guys, thank you so much. Thank you for all the birthday wishes this week. We got some birthdays coming up over the weekend. We got Penny and Christopher's birthday are next week. Walter's birthday is today, so happy birthday, Walter. As this video is playing, it is Walter's birthday to him. Don't forget that at $25, there is a acrylic block that is added automatically to your cart. I also wanted to say that there is, I think there was a checkerboard kit that was added at $75. And of course we have our incentive stamp, which is that fun jackpot stamp that's automatically added at $60 while supplies last. So I thank you guys all so much. Let me see if I can zoom out here a little bit so you can see all of those cards together. Have a great rest of your day and I will see you next week. Bye.